Hear you okay?
Okay, I'm in a hostel. So if it's too loud, I might go out onto the terrace, but we'll see how it works.
Okay, that's cool.
Mhm.
I understand that you are whatchamacall hold on. No, sorry, hold on. I
Yeah.
understand that you like to squat and go out on you don't like you're a nomad.
Yes, I prefer the term vagabond though.
Vagabond.
But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I for the past like 4 years, I've been either eking out a struggling existence in New York City, or traveling around the U.S. without money, or hitchhiking around Europe in the summers, or in Asia, like living cheap for the winters.
Do you like punk music or have been influenced from that
Um,
culture?
After I started riding freight in the U.S., I became immersed in that subculture, and I have gotten into a few bands, like Choking Victim and stuff, or,
Interest.
or Mischief Brew, but not really. It's not a huge part of my identity at all. It's really on the fringes of my identity.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I don't.
Andrew Jackson Jihad, fucking brilliant. Their first album, at least.
My older brother, he's into hardcore. He knows more about that stuff, but I never
Yeah.
was into that whole punk
You,
music spheres, but I
so
just know
hey,
about it.
so I'm trying to like I've sent you I think a few different messages in the past like 2 weeks trying to figure out who you are. So you friends with Alex von Goldstein in real life?
Yes, I have met him.
Did I meet you at NPI?
No, I was going to go Friday night, but I
Yeah.
unfortunately backed out at the last minute. Um, but
Mm.
I have been to several countercurrents meetings before. So,
Really? Where are those in the U.S.?
Around Philadelphia, New York City.
Really? When is can you tell me can you invite me to the next one?
Well, that's up to Greg Johnson. You just have to be on the countercurrents reading list, donate money, and then eventually, in a while, such as experiment. I know he's right now. There's the New York Forum, which happens around certain irregular dates, but
What is the New
usually,
York Forum?
well, I don't want to be public about it, but Greg's knows about it. It's basically a countercurrents meeting where Greg and some of the people on the East Coast meet, and just it's for 4 hours, and you just talk about things. But once
Okay,
again,
it doesn't interest me to be honest.
you have to be a part of that niche, and so
I have a low opinion of Greg Johnson.
okay. I've actually met him a couple of times, and of I actually find him quite of a. But yeah, there's a lot of. Do you know of Jim Goad?
Yes, I know a little bit about him. I forget exactly though. I've
So
heard the name.
supposedly, there's some huge Jim Goad in a recent podcast said he has very much hatred for Greg Johnson simply because I think Johnson said something about his book, a review of sex, that Johnson called him a word, and then Jim got takes everything you call him to serious the point.
Who
Which is
is?
a
Can you frame? Can you explain Jim Goad? Who is this again? I've seen his name on various alt-right webzines, but I don't quite
Jim
remember.
Goad is a classical I guess a punk writer, kind of in the old school Gonzo journalism. He's been writing
Okay.
since the '90s with Answer Me, and has remained influential to such post punk and kind of avant
Yeah.
garde. It has influenced also Vice magazine too, and he now writes on
You
Talkies
mean
Mag.
old Vice?
Old
Old Vice or
Vice,
New Vice?
Old Vice,
Okay.
but I would say New Vice has some influence there, and I think Jim Code has a very
Oh, Jim Goad.
influential.
I've read a couple articles by him.
He has a he's his
Redneck
personality
Anarchist.
is just like his writing, and he is a very unique person.
Gotcha.
And depending, he's in that culture, and he's with a certain street culture that's though I don't associate it, but I certainly flirt with it. And
Okay, interesting. I should send him my novel then.
I it's
He might appreciate it.
I I have your book of poetry, which I did a review on my YouTube channel, but I should get
Really?
Deaf to the World. That's because I found out about you on the Stark Truth, and you just seem like a
Yes.
very interesting person, and so I'm going to get Deaf to the World. There's just
You should. I would be happy to send you the ebook or PDF.
yes, I want to buy it just so I can have a physical copy. I mean, I have some
Okay.
books in my library, and
You
it's
should
just
do it, man. Wait,
no, I will.
in your what?
I have a library and
A library?
a library, a live. Sorry.
Where are you from?
Um, I'm in Philadelphia. I
Where did you what like socioeconomic cultural context did you grow up in?
Well, I've lived most of my life in Pennsylvania. S
Pennsylvania.
yeah, Pennsylvania, and
Okay.
I've been around the suburban area, and especially around
Okay.
Philadelphia.
Cool.
I am going to graduate college soon. I have been for a
Cool.
long time an Asian studies student, and I've
Were you at
always
Temple or?
yeah, yeah,
Cool.
that's true, and some other schools like Drexel, but
Cool.
I've been flirting. I mean, I've been to transferring different schools all around, but yeah, Temple is very influential. And I've had when I a few years ago when I was at Temple,
Yeah.
especially the Asian Studies department is
Mm,
was just a very memorable time, and I loved it. And so
yeah.
I mean I've been around, and one of the things I basically you haven't viewed my videos yet or have heard me on the Stark Truth, right?
I remember seeing your YouTube, and I think I looked at your YouTube channel, and I don't remember seeing any. I think I saw like a few videos, but they were just like I
Commentary.
wrote it off. I'll check it out again though. I'm curious now.
Well, on my channel introduction, it's just I advocate Asian Aryanism, which is a joke
Yes,
term,
I saw your banner. You have a very nifty banner on the channel.
which is a very a joke. It's kind of a joke. I pulled it out of the hat, and it should be more called
Yes,
Asian preference, but Asian Aryanism seems to be in your face. But it's the ideal that maybe there should be some advocacy for a self-aware identity that most
yes,
upper class white males with
I
Asian
agree.
girlfriends and Asian wives should
Well,
not to play identity politics, but at
yeah,
least say there's a stable culture in mind. And
a stable culture, and that's a critical
uh-huh.
observation.
And
That's the operative like relevant thing.
I'm going to be honest with you, but I've
Yeah.
brought my own Chinese girlfriend to a couple of far right events, and
And how did that go?
it's funny because she didn't even realize that I was she our relationship just improved, but I'm no longer with her right now. We're just friends now, but
Okay.
it's maybe how bringing out it's at that point where you maybe start to realize that is just this whole white nationalist motif really just myself being in denial about what I really like, and
Yeah.
maybe Asian, yeah, and not to say that I'm condemning white nationalism, but it's the ideal that when people flock to such far right positions like white
Mm,
nationalism, there's this kind of, I don't mean to say Freudian thing, but maybe there's a certain association that you as maybe a white person feel that you belong to a greater family, or maybe
yeah,
um
they want to latch on to something greater than themselves,
yeah, yeah, and
right?
what I'm saying to myself is psychologically in the Freudian sense, I'm writing this about in my own book, which
Mm,
will come out in like a few months, but I'm saying
yeah.
is that I kind of gravitated towards the far right, not because it was because one, I was interested in avant-garde and punk literature and like
Yeah.
cultures like that. I've always been
Gotcha.
fascinated with that, but
Mm,
slowly I got into it simply because I really was playing soft denial about all the my girlfriends I was with were all Asian. I barely ever dated white girls. I always got a negative connotation to them. I know
Well,
if
they have to. They're under scrutiny and pressure to reject, for example, white males. A little bit, slight pressure, but
yeah,
palpable pressure, and they're under pressure to, party hard until the day they die.
and it's funny is because I'm the most softest person ever. I've came
Yeah.
from because my family has an eccentric background, and you're kind of in that upper class. It's funny because I originally was into like punk music. Like my favorite punk band when I was 17 a few years ago
Mm,
was Realicide. They were like this digital hardcore band, and I was kind of that roadie in there. And but then all of a sudden when I went to college, I didn't want to follow down the path of my older brother he's in a punk band now, but I found about more religion. I joined a Christian club on campus. I
okay.
especially Asian studies where I felt there was more. And then I tried to say that education is more of a discipline. And then some other great things happen too. About I'm still pretty young myself. I would
Yeah.
say I'm in my early 20s. I'm not. I'm not. I'm only. So what I say is I'm still pretty youthful and
Yes.
inexperienced about the world. But I'm just making
Your
this.
mind is still thaw.
Uh huh. So that's what I had on one of the Stark Truth. Alex told me, "Are you sure this isn't a phase you're going through?" Well, the
Wait,
thing is,
which phase? The Asian Aryanism phase, or?
that or everything I'm saying.
Mhm.
But the funny part is, well, I'm getting closer to being older, and I should start now of just writing out my life, how I experience
What
things,
is
and
so this book you're writing? Is it a novel or is it some manifesto or what is it?
it's not a manifesto. It's more like a collection of writings, and it is somewhat of it's basically like it's about hitting now 40,000 words. It mixes from commentary to fictional
That's something.
stories.
Sure.
Stark told me to write some manifesto in there. I'll get to it, but it looks like
You can
something on
make it
the.
a Randian novel.
It's kind of like I really like Peter Sotos. He's like this sexual avant-garde punk writer. His one book, Selfish Little, you open up and it's just huge five big chapters. One, two, three, four. They're untitled. There's no table of contents. You just
Yeah.
flip through a page and then it's either from commentary to a fictional story to,
Mm.
and so it's kind of like that as of right now. I should finish up the last touches of the book before January. But once me and Stark, Robert Stark also has a novel. I've been helping him write that novel, and
That he's
maybe
been working on.
yeah, Robert Stark. He I don't want to say any details of his novel because
Okay, yeah,
Robert
yeah, yeah.
Stark wants a final product. But I have said it's a James Joyce vaporwave novel. And so
By vaporwave, you're talking about like freebase and black tar, or what do you mean? What is vaporwave?
vaporwave is this kind of internet subculture that
Yeah.
basically flirts with like 80s and 90s media, music, anime.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
And with that, with James Joyce, if you think of Portrait of a Young Man and makes it into the modern,
There's a parallel there,
something
right?
like that. I don't want to more, but Robert, once we get that, hopefully me and Robert, we can write
Yeah,
that out and then get
awesome.
that. I'm helping him write that book. But my own book, I think
When will either be out? When will either be done?
my own. My date is March. I'm thinking it,
Mhm.
and I'm planning it. I was talking to this one publisher, but rather I'm just going to put it up on Lulu, and just put
Yeah,
it because here's the thing. I would rather want to focus on YouTube commentary, and I only have 12 subscribers at the moment. I've been only 3 weeks into this, but at
yes.
the point is, you know what? Talking to other people and being a co-host on the Stark Truth, I think I should just go on a YouTube career and probably try to hit this unrealistic number of 1,000 subscribers, which is there, or even getting 100, and just
Mhm.
playing the YouTube game and see where I can go. Because once then I can get a base, and at least there's
Yeah, and plus
some.
YouTube's great medium just for making friends. You talk to
Absolutely.
people and
Yeah.
even I mean perhaps that's even a better way to look at it than trying to get subscribers, in my opinion.
If I was just to release my book and say it's on Lulu, no one would care. It would just be an in-person thing, and all my friends would have like 10 copies of it. I mean, I have
Yeah.
written previous work before, and I have a blog spot, my fan club at Blogspot, where I just uploaded some of my summer writing, some of whatever I've written in the past. But I would like to try to make a new book where I can get more of my art out there. And so, starting from YouTube, which has much more cultural power than just releasing an album or a novel all at once, you can, get it out there and people can see, and you can make up your audience from there. So, yeah.
Yes.
But right now,
So
if you, yeah, no,
yeah,
if you look at my YouTube, yeah, there's only like 28 videos and it's just new and
that's a
it's just,
lot.
I'm trying to make it stuff up from there. So yeah, definitely you would say, oh, what's this website? So yeah, it's not that flashy at the moment.
Mhm. So I have a question then. So your whole Asian Aryanism thing, that's very whimsical. Um, is this sort of, are you viewing this from a distinctly subjective white male perspective, or would you perhaps classify, in terms of discussions about HBD and stuff, would you classify Asians as white?
No,
You
here's
would not.
the no. I don't like that
It
at all.
sounds like a very chauvinistic, you
It, it,
know,
it's just once
white
again, it's
attitude you have, a white nationalist chauvinistic attitude.
uh-huh. I know what you're saying. Especially the word Aryanism seems to be that it's a white nationalist thing. Well, it's definitely a joke, the term. I mean,
It sounds whimsical, yeah.
and so really, yes, it does come from that far right area. One of the things I like to talk about is there is a lot of white nationalists or in the far right that do have Asian girlfriends, Asian wives, and
Yes,
they're
it makes
very
sense.
downplay on that, and they don't. And I like to hang in Asian studies, and especially if you're in a class or going to Japanese clubs, or I was in Edgewater, New Jersey, going to Mitsuwa. That is just a gathering of just a large white male, Asian female gathering. And if you were to ask any
It's
of
called
these,
Mitsuwa. What is its explicit
It's a Japanese market.
culture?
Yeah,
A
and
market.
everybody around the New York City area meets
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
and it's just you will see. Of course, you will see a majority of white male, Asian female coupling and their HAPA children, but you will also see Asian male, white female, which I'm also pro vice versa of.
So
Um,
if you're pro vice versa, why not drop the mention of white male, Asian female?
well, that's the unfortunate truth is, I'm not talking about Asian Black Aryanism, or I'm not talking, as Alex von Goldstein says, Negro Aryanism, because that would lead to some kind of multicultural and diversity thing. I'm very
So you
critical of
want
it.
you want white nationalist hegemony.
It's here's the thing. I Robert said this. Robert said, "You want to abolish the white race?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to abolish. I don't want to abolish the Asian race either. There
Mhm.
has to be a white group of people and an Asian group of
Yes.
people. But
Okay.
at the same time, look,
There can be gene flow, you're saying then.
in this progressive area, or where we in this postmodern, and with the markets available, and that we have, Skype, we can communicate with one another. It seems to me that multiculturalism and diversity has byproduct created Asian Aryanism, or a huge number of white male, Asian female coupling. Um,
Yes.
I had this one statistics from American Renaissance. It's kind of outdated now. It's from 2015, but
Mhm.
the highest choice between white males, if they were to choose between black, Hispanic, Mexican, and other non-whites, they always choose Asian, majority Chinese,
Yes.
some
And
Korean.
this fits with what we observe.
And now it's funny because in the Asian Studies department, they obviously
Mhm.
call that racist. But I think it's a phenomenon that what's happening is I said this too on the previous. This show will be uploaded. I had an interview with Prince of Queens, and
Prince
I
of Queens. Who is this?
Prince of Queens is an alt left YouTube blogger. He has over 3,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel.
What
Talks.
is his shtick?
He's considers himself alt left, but he's very critical of social justice warriors, the regressive left, and because myself, I would consider the Asian Aryan position alt left. I would not.
Well, why would you call that left at all? Why is the term left being included here for
Okay.
your position?
I'm going to go on a digression, but look, in white nationalism, if I was to say Asian Aryanism, they would think it's
They would they
stupid.
would kick you out. They
Exactly,
would
because
bar you
you're
from.
race
Yeah.
mixing. You're in the in
Yeah.
the in the natural left, the mainstream quote unquote cultural Marxist thing. They'll say, "Why would you ever stereotype and choose only Asian? That's not being open minded as an individual." And they would condemn it right away. And then
But it's
finally,
not leftward in terms of any
uh-huh,
economics or in terms of
it's cultural.
egalitarianism.
And in
So using
egalitarianism.
using the term very loosely just to differentiate yourself.
And
Yeah.
then finally, in the HAPA Reddit, which is this group of stuff Eurasian people like, which I've been a long time lurker of. These are a group of half white, half Asian uh, young millennials who are actually either disappointed with being associated as white and would rather have a new Asian American culture.
Mhm.
However, they wouldn't like Asian Aryanism at all, because it assumes that the white person, the white male or white female, gets also a benefit too with their own racial category. No, according to the HAPAs, you have to be Asian and nowhere else. If you're half, you're going to be more associated to Chinese or Japanese. That's
So the
fine.
the Hapas are basically biracial, but they're trying to ride the coattails of anti-racist SJW rhetoric,
Yes, and so
which is very deplorable in my opinion.
the Asian Aryan thing is actually just the opponent of everything what the HAPA board speaks against, and that's where I'm
Yeah.
really influenced from. They're
Ah,
we're
the
the,
opponents. I see. Yeah.
And so I'm really the opponent of the HAPA board, everything they don't like, and I'm putting it into a
You're an
positive
anti.
light. And so
Yeah, I gotcha.
and
So
so
what
like
would you? Yeah, continue.
no, and so like what are their enemies? Their enemies are Margaret Cho and Tila Tequila, which are both Asian American kind of. But there's
Margaret Cho
nothing.
is the author, right?
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with them, because look, there's a lot of white culture. Like I'm saying is like there's a lot of stuff white people like culture that is good, and it's not evil or some kind of oppressive nature. And in fact, it's a
Yeah.
part of having that synergy together and what makes the quote unquote Asian American thing happen. However, When in an Asian American thing, you're going to be associated more on the Asian side and create this whole, Asian lives matter, silly attack the patriarch, and it's like it's so
Insane.
silly.
Yeah.
And
It's not going to
so
go anywhere.
Asian Aryanism is a blunt attack. It's just a term I'm using for now to basically argue no, in fact, that everybody's in denial of their white side, but they go to these uniquely white things. They go see. Do you know the band Juju?
Of course, they're a very good band.
Yeah, I had an interview with Jamie on the Stark Truth about this, and
Okay.
if you go, I saw them in Philadelphia.
Cool.
White male Asian female couplings. Mitski, she's up and coming. She was on Adventure Time. Oh, it's
Who's
again.
Nitschke?
Mitski is this half Japanese, half English. She's very young. She's like 25. She
Mhm.
sings really romantic songs. She has her white boyfriend. But once again,
Yeah.
I've been there on in Philadelphia, saw that a bunch of beautiful Asian hapo-looking people there, and everybody can unite. And then we have oh, I love Atari Teenage Riot. They're like this old school like left wing breakcore act.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you have, once again, it seems to me in an urban city sprawl area, when there's some interest of Asian culture, this quote unquote, I call it Asian Aryan people show up. They're
Yeah.
interested into white things, but they've also strongly associated with the discipline and harmony of Asian culture. Nobody is
Yes.
writing about it. So I'm
Mhm.
just going to write about it and call it Asian Aryanism or stuff your Asian people like. And that's
Okay.
kind of what my argument is. It's basically in white nationalism they call people cucks. You're a cuck because you you you
Disagree,
you
or you're in some way mitigating your whiteness or looking down upon it.
Now I'm going to reuse the term cuck. I have a video on this, and I said this to
Mhm.
Stark. I call it a new cuck. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll change the word, but the new cuck states that okay, you have an Asian wife, you have like 3 Asian white children,
Mhm.
but you don't want to say that they belong to you too. You say like I go up to one. I've had situations like this. Like, hey,
Yeah.
it's cool that your wife's Asian. Oh, this has nothing to do with my Asian wife. Oh, she's just an individual, and I choose her. And some white individualistic culture comes out when
Yeah.
realizing you have discriminated and made the choice of having this culture, and you should at least take pride in that your wife is Asian and that you have Hapa children. And so
Yeah.
that,
You
and I
should be
call
able
that,
to speak both ways on the topic.
and basically I call that new cuck behavior. You're just disagreeing. I had some Twitter
Okay, gotcha.
there's this one Twitter person, I think her name is Nami or something, and I showed her my Asian Aryan video, and she said, "That's so asinine. Why would you ever put Asian Americans as identity politics? Yeah, I mean, my husband is white and all, but..." And so she already spoke for herself. Because
Yes.
I don't
I,
have to explain myself then.
so I want to get back on a couple of questions I have. So now I can't help but in my mind see a parallel between the whole white dude Asian female pairing, and parallel it with the Babylonian exile of the Jewish people when they left, Palestine, ancient Palestine, Israel, and showed up in the Ruhr Valley in Germany. And I believe there's genetic studies which suggest that there was a very asymmetric pairing of Jewish men, Hebrew men, and European women, in that modern Ashkenazi Jews, European Jews, are largely matrilineally European. And I can't help but see a parallel here because, in many regards, people would say that, the white patriarchy that used to govern white lands has, become destroyed, and that, right now what we see among the white nationalists is this sort of a scramble to, do damage control and to rebuild our, ethnocentric structures within a society that is hostile to us. So what would you say to this?
Um, I think the Jewish question is very touchy, and once again, I like to only focus on the relationship between whites and Asians, and I
There's
do.
there's a certain parallel here.
Yes, because
Because the Jews had their temple destroyed, they got booted out, they were in a foreign land hostile to them, and they took, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but took predominantly, European wives.
oh yeah, and they're Ashkenazi, and they're the most highest IQ people on the planet, and so they
So
really.
would you even say that Asian Aryanism is perhaps modeled after this, or because there are parallels?
It's happening. And I would agree that eventually, hey, look, so as long as whites keep denying their racial consciousness, they'll just flee
Yes.
to Asians because Asians are allowed to have this racial
Or they'll simply
consciousness.
build a subculture within a hostile society, and being perhaps you could say denied white wives who are unwilling to, have children before the age of 35.
Hmm.
White-minded males are therefore taking willing and available Asian females.
And so hey, it's like this. Supposedly, what if, I was not doing this whole Asian Aryan thing? Well, and eventually in 10 or 20 years, there's going to be a whole millennial or post-millennial generation of just too much HAPA children. I mean, Prince of Queens said
Yes,
that in Seattle. It's already happening. It's a whole
he's in
huge.
Seattle.
No, no, I don't think Prince of Queens. He was
Uh,
visiting Seattle, but
okay,
in
I see.
Seattle, it I believe it's too. It's huge because it's like the Japanese internment camps are in California. Some of the
Sure.
Japanese migrated over, but it's much
Any
more up on the
Chinatown.
West Coast, where there's more
Mhm.
Chinese over here on the East Coast. But it just should.
Here for
There's a
university, right?
huh, and
Yeah.
so it's just a lot of that's happening, and it's like the
Mhm.
reason why that's happening is because you can't be like an upper class elite can't be have white. It's racist if you do that, but it's not racist if you do have an Asian wife. And I think it's like this.
And it's also a matter of cultural shifting and so on.
And it's funny,
Uh,
like it's funny too
Continue.
because you notice that the upper class white males are obtaining Asian females, where it's like
Yes,
they can do a job, go 24 hours at Fortune 500 company, while their
and that will
Asian
get them a
wives,
wife.
the wives in Asian culture, show up to you when you have
Yes,
higher social status. Asian girls
yes.
approach you, and that's something amazing
It's
I've
not just about,
realized.
it's not just about casual sex and like
Absolutely, yeah.
insane pop cultural wranglings and shit.
And so what
Yeah.
happens, I've experienced that myself. I realized that in my own school and education, Asian
Mhm.
girls would approach me. And at one point in time, I would consider myself a classical new cuck. I really believed in universal values and very Christian ideals about, well, no, it's not about that she's Asian. She's just an individual. But it turns out for the past like early 5 years of my youth, and when I'm a teenager in my early 20s, I'm starting to realize every time it's an Asian that approaches me, and that it's no longer this, and I just think I'm shifting in my own sexual preferences. I have to
Yeah,
say I prefer Asian. It's on Tinder and on
there's less
dating
bullshit.
websites. What's
Yeah,
that?
there's less bullshit you have to, navigate through. You don't have to study the arcane, asinine art of being a pickup artist and all of
Exactly.
this bullshit.
It doesn't
Right? Yeah. You
exactly.
can
It does
focus
not
on,
apply.
your career and stuff and meaningful contributions uh, to the social economy
Roosh
rather
V
than competing and shit.
Roosh V on his website said,
Yeah.
"Hey, we like Asian women not because we have to do anything else. They're just so natural, and I can talk them without being stressed out." It's just like, is that exactly
Yeah.
this game only works on white women? It's funny because that's the
Because what white women perhaps are forced to, you could say, um, forced to not behave the way Asian women do,
hmm
right? They're under, pressure and scrutiny to,
exactly.
be hedonistic, downward gazing
It's also true
bitches.
that like I do think there are authentic white women, especially in the Midwest, where it's more down
Yes, but
south.
they're under immense
Yeah,
propaganda, media, educational propaganda to not behave that way.
yeah, and
Like
so
I had a girlfriend. Never mind. Continue.
but yeah, I mean, it is certainly a controversial issue, and of course, I'm advocating for white birth rates to sound like a white nationalist, but it has to. You can't just kill out, whites and be. There needs to be a stable white culture that's very inviting, like the Amish
Sure.
in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. That just
Yeah. Yeah.
happens naturally. But at
But
this
they
point,
have. But it's weird. It's very tricky these days because we are under such pressure to not do that. For
hmm
example, you remember Craig Cobb tried to start some community up in like North Dakota.
yeah.
You got people coming, slashing his tires, fucking legal injunctions.
Oh,
Like
even
everything's
Matthew
stacked against him.
Matthew Heimbach is starting a community in Paoli, Indiana,
I'm
and
sure that the FBI is going to come with tanks and fucking like gas them all.
yeah, and
That's
so
what's
it's
going to
like
happen.
you try to start these weird communes, but it's just I don't know. It's just
They will come and kill you. One
there's
way, or directly or indirectly kill you.
There's always a prerequisite to culture, and especially if
Pre
you're in
pre what?
a pre like you have to do things, a
Okay,
prerequisite.
yeah, yeah,
You always
okay,
have to do things to obtain, and I slowly noticed it within white culture. It's unfortunate because I consider
yes.
myself white. I do really consider
Mhm.
myself white, and I would like to, but at the same time, it's like whites believe in the ideal that we're universal and that there's no innate differences, and we have to
Well,
treat
they
each other.
functionally they believe.
Hmm. And so
Like
we're not
verbally they believe, but I mean, whether deep down they believe, I highly doubt.
we're autonomized individuals and we're supposed to do this, and it's all about what
Yeah.
you like, and it's just that doesn't make any sense when you realize that the reality of the world is harsh. There's culture, there's but I think when everybody comes to that coming of age realization, that's when all these new white of my millennial generation are just pursuing Asian women. All my
Yeah.
friends, I'll tell a story like this.
Mhm.
I was a part of this. I love board games. One
Okay. Yeah.
time, I'm kind of in that little board game niche, but one time one of my friends asked me to come over his house. I live with my wife, and this is kind of before I was wholly aware of. This is like a few years ago.
You live with your wife.
No, no, no. This guy lived. No, no, no. This is another
I
guy.
was gonna
I
say,
don't
I
have a
thought you were
wife.
in university.
No, I don't. This is
Okay.
my friend. My friend has a wife,
Mhm.
and oh, we'll play board games at my house. I'll vote everyone in the club. I'm like, okay. He's older than me. This was like 2 years ago. I came over his house. It was a very nice house, like on the hill, very nice. I was like, oh, nice to meet you, Jake. And Jake's older. I think he's like late 20s. Oh, this is my wife. I think it was named her Sarah, and Sarah was Chinese. I was like, oh hi, and she was super cute, black glasses, black hair, and she spoke really good English,
Yeah.
something like that. And then my other friends, give a fake name here. Don came over, and I
Mhm.
was like, "Hey, Don." Oh, Don said, "Oh, I brought my girlfriend over," and his
Mhm.
girlfriend was Chinese too. And I was like, "What?" And something was happening. I wasn't really. And then the third person came over. We were playing like card games. I think we were playing a Masquerade. This was a
Yeah.
silly kind of card game. And
Uh,
then the third person came over from this board game club, and he had a Korean girlfriend, and I was the only one in the room that did not have any girlfriend or some
Gotta
sort.
fit in, man.
And then three of my white friends all have Asian girlfriends and Asian wife.
Mhm.
And we would all play these board games until midnight. And that moment in time, like almost, this was like almost a year and a half ago, I think.
Mhm.
It was pretty recent. And I just, driving home, I was like, okay, there's must be this kind of upper class culture that I'm aware of. And that's when kind of some of my, but that's just one moment and kind of my awakening when
But
realizing that.
it's an insight into patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's funny too because at that same time I was flirting with another Asian girl where it was becoming self obvious where I had to answer the big. At that time I still said I'm a proud Asian studies student and I have to understand Asian culture. When it turns the realization that hey look, any freshman who goes into Asian studies has a perversion of liking anime or wishing that they had a Japanese girlfriend. It's just one
Yeah.
dark truth that people need to express. And I thinking, that's what I'm really trying to write about and trying to understand is that this whole I mean, I can tell other stories too about what's going on right now. Right now I'll be graduating in like a few weeks.
Oh wow, congratulations.
Yes.
What are your plans after?
Well, I plan to do more of this stuff and make my YouTube resume and write my book so then I can go to grad school and maybe
Nice.
I would go to grad school for broadcasting or maybe even creative writing or film.
Mhm.
And if I get
Cool.
my book out there, it'll be on my resume, my YouTube blog. I'm basically putting up this is actually has a lot to do with my own future career. And so I'm
Cool.
starting now.
So you're wedding your YouTube pursuits with your real life career.
Exactly. Now
That's
notice
an
that
awesome
the name
idea.
pilleater, that's not my real name, but it's going to be the name I'll put on a, resume to say, "Hey, this is me and
Yes.
I've interviewed these people on the Stark
Mhm.
Truth." And it's, I'm just building it up so I can get some
Nice.
kind of identity out there and know what
Cool.
I'm going to write about. But um other than that, I used to work as indirect sales, knocking on people's door and selling them cable and stuff, and that's
Nice.
you learn a lot from that. And
I believe that.
I do have an eBay business, and I do sell stuff on eBay to get some extra pin money and just
What do
but
you sell?
I sell toys and books and a little stuff, and I
Well,
put it on eBay and just maybe get like 500 a month. Really small stuff. I have all the
that's
boxes.
substantial. If I mean, depending on how much work you're putting into it.
Mm-hmm. And it's not
Hey,
enough to
I
live
have a
on your own.
question.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell me more about Prince of Queens?
Prince of
You had an interview with him.
Yes. I've Prince of Queens. He's exclusively YouTube, and his channel is Prince of Queens. He has videos every like 2 or 3 days talking about how social justice warriors are. You can't stand them, and that there needs to be a
Is
new.
he a is he a race realist or open to the idea?
I don't, I don't want to speak for him, but I know he
Yeah,
doesn't really like talking about race. But at the same time, he knows that
which
there are racial foundations, as in, hey, one of the things he talks about is this. If you have a blue-haired tattoo feminist saying how much she hates the patriarchy and cisgender male, well, it turns out that likes dating one. She wishes she had a boyfriend of the opposite. And I could speak truly of myself, where if you're a white nationalist, you say, oh, only white people exist. Well, there's some sexual innuendo where it's like, oh, but what if your girlfriend's black or Jewish or Asian? And so that happens in the social justice community, where they say all this stuff about hating on
white patriarchy.
when in fact that they have sexual desires for. And Prince of Queens actually talks about that. And
Yes,
so
I
he does.
noticed this often among like female persons of color that
Hmm.
are social justice warriors. I often see them dating white males.
I think I don't want to get this mixed up. I was reading this book by Jacqueline Woodson. It's called Brown Girl Dreaming. It's basically this young adult novel about this brown girl dreaming so she can become an American citizen, whatnot. It's kind of this Black Lives Matter thing, but I think it turns
Okay,
out that the author married a white man. And
which is
so is
not
it
surprising.
represents exactly. It's actually the
Yeah,
opposite what she argues for. And then I think she
yeah.
broke up, had a child, and then became a quote unquote lesbian for political reasons. But before then, it's like the choice is
Who did she
obviously
have a child with?
a white man
Huh.
who's, and so
Okay,
her child would be half black, half white. And then all of a sudden they
interesting.
divorced, probably because of money reasons and power. And then now she's
Something
a lesbian, right? I always am
interesting.
very skeptical of the whole lesbian thing because
Many people are.
Prince of Queens said that Black Lives Matter was formed by black lesbian, quote unquote, lesbians for their herstory, not history. And it's
Mhm.
mind of this kind of weird. It doesn't make any really practical sense when Black Lives Matter could be just a black nationalist party just under the liberal. It's something really confusing, and I can't really. I don't like to talk about black issues simply because I think
Yeah.
whites and blacks are the most
Are you
controversial.
there?
Mo- black and white coupling is the most
Huh.
controversial and most
Yo,
difficult
Pilleater, are you
situation.
there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? You can hear me? Okay, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?